What is up? Welcome back to Softcore History. I am your host, Rob Fox, joined as always by Dan Regester, and this week,
special guest, no one.
No one else. We don't have a deep bench.
We don't. We truly don't. Everyone's leaving Austin.
A lot of our friends are leaving Austin, and even like our normal guests couldn't be here this week. Boosh is moving. He's staying in Austin, but he's moving apartments. Gabby's in Europe.
I think they hate us.
It's probably
the truth of the matter.
The main.
They're like, you're not paying enough, and we're not going to contribute.
That's an accurate statement. So,
sorry, it's a podcast.
No one wanted to do it. Joel's over there editing. He can't get on the show today.
It's fine. You get us. Just means I have to step up.
Yeah,
which I'm not a fan of.
Well, I mean, maybe it'll improve your day since.
Maybe I typically like to pick my spots. I'm like a Cheeto Vera when it comes to podcasting. No, you don't get that reference.
I don't.
A Bud Crawford, a guy that's just, he's not a lot of volume, but I'm going for that heavy hand.
Okay. Yeah. Fighting. Some MMA. Yeah. I don't.
And some boxing.
Okay. Yeah. I don't watch either, really.
Yeah.
I would like to, I guess, but even when I watch, I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. Someone killed somebody is all I ever really think.
There's no equivalent to a sport you would understand, because tennis, it's not like you can pick your spots in tennis.
Kind of can, but you do need to win most of the stuff.
Right. Yeah, you can't just refuse to send the ball back.
Yeah. It's a bold move, I guess, but...
All right, you get this point.
Yeah, just take it. I mean, they do that sometimes, but not to the same degree. My favorite tennis strategy is pooping for too long.
What do you mean?
You get bathroom breaks in between sets. And sometimes a player, Djokovic is really noted for this, especially,
you ice the other player
he'll go in there,
you
stay in there for too long.
Dump out?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a fan. I like the tennis players that are like brick walls, where I'm not going to really offensively take the game into my own hands, but I'm going to make you fuck up.
Right. Well,
Is that like a Medvedev?
No, it's like a Rafa or a Djokovic or trying to think of like the younger guy. Honestly, Alcaraz gets to everything. Alcaraz gets to fucking everything.
But Alcaraz will try stuff. I'm talking about a guy that is just like, all right, nope, I'm sending it over.
Yeah, Djokovic is the best defensive player of all time, so probably Djokovic for sure. As Nick Kyrgios once said, this is my favorite quote about Djokovic. It's like, first he takes your legs, right? He makes you just work too hard to get points, and then he takes your soul.
As you're already tired.
Yeah. Then you're just like, then he just crushes your fucking soul, your hope. Anyway, that's enough tennis talk for today. Djokovic got the gold medal. That was the only non-American I was rooting for, was Joker.
Did we tie in gold medals? Or did we win? We tied China?
Yeah, but we won the medal count by like 1 million.
I know, but we could have won if the fucking high jumper just split the gold.
She didn't want to?
The guy.
Oh, the guy didn't want to?
Dude, all right, so it was before the basketball game. The worst sporting event I've ever seen in my life. It was just two dudes that couldn't clear at the bar for 25, 30 minutes.
And they were like, do you guys just want to share?
Yes, and the American was like, fuck no. And he lost to a white Kiwi. He lost to a New Zealand guy.
Respect that, though, actually.
I do, too.
That's fair. I like that.
We could have beat China.
Don't split the gold. And if anything, they should have split a silver. Is what should have been the offer. Fuck that. Neither of you did it. No gold is awarded for fuck that.
We're actually going to cancel the sport.
Yeah, that's insane. I guess women's volleyball lost, too.
We got run by Italy.
Yeah. Bummer.
I didn't know the Italians were so good at volleyball.
A lot of these European countries are good at very random sports. Obviously, handball.
I think this is a new development for Italy.
No, I have actually. You are jogging a memory that they're generally quite good at volleyball in both men's and women's.
Yeah, handball's dominated by like the Dutch and
outrageous.
I don't know if they won or not.
You could just. I was tweeting.
But like countries around that
I was
region.
tweeting the other day. Like you could just send like all the skill players from like Akron's football team.
Dog, I could be on the U.S. handball team.
Yeah,
to beat
and
them.
it's fucking and it's game over. Like a MAC skill position football team in handball.
I'm like
murders.
225 right now. I'm running through these dudes.
Yeah, it's not fair or close. Actually, a handball account tweeted back at me, and was like trying to correct me. I ignored them.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, I should have blocked them.
That's a sport. There's a lot of Olympic sports that I think I could actually compete in. Handball's one of them.
Handball is the number one for everyone. Every white dude especially is like, yeah, we can play handball.
Yeah.
I'll play goalie. I'll be the handball goalie.
No.
I'm blocking shots. Left and right.
I'm just going to catch it like lacrosse and just chuck it. I'll just play attack. I don't even know if that's position in handball.
Yeah,
but
whatever. I'm pitching a shutout. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let's get into this week's episode. We have a good one. I'm excited about this one. This is actually one of those episodes where as I was writing it, I was like, I might be doing this a huge disservice. Like, there might be so much more to this, and I'm just, like, skimming, Wikipediaing it. But we're softcore history, so that's our cop-out.
Right. Somebody was chirping us the other day that we essentially just read Wikipedia. It's like, did you read the description?
Yeah, for the Wikipedia reader. Also,
it's there.
Did you find it? Did you know about this? No? We're telling you about it. Mm-hmm. So you didn't even know the Wikipedia existed.
We're history aggregators, really.
We are. We are history aggregator content.
Dog, nobody makes original content these days. Look at the internet. It's all dead. We used to.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Unless you want to go listen to original sketches on our Patreon, patreon.com/softcore.
That's true. People are raving about your sketches.
Check that shit out.
I made an appearance.
You did.
I popped in.
Co-starred in it, I would say.
So patreon.com/softcore history, you get 2 additional episodes every week, including a, at this point, 2.5-year back catalog of evergreen content. And you get a normal episode kind of like this where we cover a subject, and then, yeah, Rob will write a sketch.
War Stories with Jimmy Stewart. I think I'm going to do another Hooker Diary next time.
We did a Hooker Diary. We've done, the last one was about just like a Dan Brown.
It was a Da Vinci Code spoof. Yeah,
parody.
Yeah, because I do love the Da Vinci Code and Dan Brown, but it's like, he's a ludicrous writer.
So check that out. It was actually really good. It made me laugh a couple times, which is hard to do with Rob.
I'm shocked you even admitted that, to be honest.
I mean, game respect game.
Well, speaking of which, I respect your game, and you're going to like this guy a lot because he reminds me of your writing at TFM back in the day.
Just being a shit poster?
Suffice it to say that someone like you who pitched sending the homeless to colonize Mars...
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
You might be into this gentleman we're going to talk about today.
That was also around the same time where like that Mars 1 mission was going on, and people willingly signed up for a clear scam.
Just like live in a box, right?
First off, it was very obviously a scam, but second off, married people with children were just like, you know what? Earth's not good enough for me. I'm going to abandon all of you and then die on a red rock.
Yeah. Underground, too. You can't live on the surface of Mars.
No.
Because there's too much radiation.
Because it doesn't have an atmosphere?
Yeah, and it doesn't have a magnetosphere, or I think magnetosphere. So there's the space radiation, whatever the fuck, it just gets right in. I mean, it's just a cancer factory.
And all I did was suggest, hey, man, maybe it didn't work out for a couple people on this planet. Those that live in L.A., those in Austin, on the sidewalks and tents, maybe go be king of Mars.
Oh, man, I was trying
to... Make something of yourself. And all of a sudden, years later, Gavin Newsom's cleaning up the streets of California, and he could have just taken my idea back in, 2016?
Yeah, founded New California on Mars. Idiot.
New California Republic.
So this guy we're talking about today, as I read about him more and more, I feel like if he was alive today, his name is George Fitzhugh, if he was alive today, he would, at minimum, have a very popular and very controversial Twitter account. This is the type of guy who would objectively have a lot of fans today.
Just a guy that would poke the bear.
Yeah.
Stoke the fires.
He had one...
Stir the pot.
He had one issue in particular. So George Fitzhugh was a lawyer-turned-sociologist and social theorist in the 1800s.
Ooh, so he thought he was smarter than everyone.
Oh, yeah.
You get that law degree in the 1800s.
He mostly had one particular pet cause. And that was, his main belief was that all black people should be slaves, even the free ones.
What year?
This is like the 1850s.
Okay.
All black people.
Hard to build off this. Hard to yes-end this.
Don't worry, we'll get there. In Fitzhugh's defense, I'll just defend him here. Now, that may sound racist, especially because he said the Negro was, quote, but a grown-up child.
Tough scene.
So they needed to be slaves. They needed...
Right.
In his...
I'll cut that.
Yeah.
Like, for the clip that's going to be on our Instagram, I'll make sure that's out of context completely.
That'll go bananas on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube short. But in his defense, if I can defend him for a moment, he also thought that most white people should be slaves.
Okay. So he's fair and balanced. He's like Fox News.
He wrote, quote, "Men are not born entitled to equal rights. It would be far nearer to truth to say that some were born with saddles on their backs and others booted and spurred to ride them, and the riding does them good. They need the reins, the bit, and the spur."
So he's an elitist.
Oh. Yeah, kind of, but it's it's mostly that
Is it socioeconomic, or is it more just kind of meritocracy?
A little bit of A, a little bit of B. I think he thinks that the way the socioeconomic landscape is laid out is the meritocracy already.
Okay. So if you're born poor, you deserve to be poor.
Well, we'll get to that.
All right.
He has a sort of paternalistic view of slavery.
Like,
a universal.
blame your ancestors for not working hard enough and not grinding.
Not being on that grind. He has sort of like a universal paternalism would be his kind of point of view here. So Fitzhugh basically looked around the pre-Civil War South and thought, too many of these people are free.
How many's too many? Like what percentage of the population?
Oh, he'll actually give us kind of a percentage in a little bit.
He's like, only 5,000 people on this planet should be free.
Yeah, kind of. Like, it was a low number. So he's
developing the society that's Elysium.
The Matt Damon movie. Yeah, it's not far off from that. So he basically thought that modernity's political ideas, modernity being the 1840s and 50s, were ruining human beings who were happier to have their purpose spelled out for them. But liberalism and capitalism had freed too many of these people, but they didn't know what to do with their freedom. And
people yearn for direction.
Yeah. You yearn. What does Loki say in the Avengers? He's like, you yearn to be ruled. Isn't life simpler this way?
I can't.
Yeah,
I can't quote Loki.
I can quote Loki. Yeah.
I don't ride for the movies that hard. I've seen them once.
So basically, he's like, people are happier when they don't have to worry about so much stuff. And who has to worry about less than a slave?
Got everything taken care of. You got a roof over your head, food provided.
That is literally
sometimes. You might get punished if you don't meet quota.
Well, we'll get to that
that's
too.
That's kind of on you, right?
We'll get to that too. He says that, quote, slavery to human masters was less intolerable than slavery to capital. So essentially, like, humans are going to be nicer to you than the markets will be.
Than a system?
Because the system doesn't care.
Okay, so he was a pro-slavery, pro-commie?
We'll get to that. This man had a very unique point of view. And I'm telling you, this guy's Twitter would have crushed. Like, this guy would have fucking 2 million followers on Twitter. Because everybody ain't nobody think they a slave. Everyone, they'd have 1 million followers, and all million of them would be, except for maybe a few deranged chicks, like that Pearl chick who's like, take away that women's rights to vote and stuff like that. It's just like,
can we just talk about for a second how insufferable X/Twitter has become?
I know you hate Twitter now.
It's awful. Like, it is truly some of the worst stuff imaginable.
You got to curate your content better, bro.
I used to, and then I worked at a place that cared about politics, and now it's ruined.
No, you know,
it used to just be jokes. Man.
Actually,
Twitter just used to be jokes.
You know what the problem is? Is that Elon Musk bought Twitter, turned it into X, and freed your algorithm. You were a slave to an algorithm that was serving you
comedy,
what it thought you needed to hear. And
shit posting.
Now you're free.
Now I see the N-word every other post.
And you're getting everything.
By white dudes, yeah.
And you're getting everything. You were happier a slave.
I guess so.
To the algorithm.
Algorithm knows what I want.
Yeah.
But now the new algorithm's kind of serving me just nothing. Just nothing but ass.
It's like a lack thereof. You know what I mean? It's like a lack of algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're free and you're worse off.
And it's just two sides battling for my attention. And I'm like, I don't care about either of you.
Yeah. You might be a Fitzhughist. you want the algorithm to do everything for you, so you don't have to. It's easier that way.
That's Jessie. Jessie Wiseman's kind of like that, where she just wants things provided for her with ads.
We should have had her on for this one.
Yeah, that would have been great because, sometimes I do buy the things that are served up in an advertisement. Sometimes a shirt or
I can tell
things
you
I need throughout my household.
For a fact, the sweatshirt and shorts I am wearing, algorithm provided.
But Twitter, for whatever reason, just serves me nothing but things I do not want to see.
Yeah, didn't you say see dead people every day?
I see someone die at least 4 times a day now. Between the Ukraine war,
Israel Hamas,
the shit in Gaza, and then just some random dude in the streets of Sacramento getting murked at a gas station.
Oh, good times.
No warning. There's no and then underneath too, it's nothing but porn.
All
it's
the
just
replies.
Porn bots. And then none of the replies have anything to do with the actual content provided in the original post. It's either porn bots or it's videos that have nothing to do with it.
I liked it.
It's the worst social media out there right now.
Actually are. I just get baseball and stuff. I mean, I get politics too, but I get baseball. That's
the thing about death videos too. You can't look away.
No.
It's all right, fine. I guess I'll click on this fucking drone video and see a Russian get his hand blown off.
Yeah, a Russian slave conscript who was a prisoner who was forced to get in the army.
Some dark shit, dude. I saw a Ukrainian soldier pick up the phone of a dead Russian and call his girlfriend to tell him he's dead.
That's pretty metal.
Or she called the dead Russian. He answered the FaceTime and showed her the body.
Oh, what?
Pretty sick. Are we sure we're on the right side? I don't know. That's pretty dark, though.
Send me that video, though. I kind of want to see it.
I don't want to look for that. I don't want that in my, at least search history. And then Google's going, they're getting sued left and right for the things they're doing. Everything is bad. We need to blow everything up. I think we need to get offline. I know this is our careers and this is how we make money, but I'd be fine working the oyster farms with Jake if it meant the internet was over.
Do it, I guess.
No, it would have to come with
you can't
the total destruction of our platform and of our
You'll only give up your platform if everyone's platform dies.
Yeah, deplatform everyone. Forget just Rogan, everyone.
Wait, should we have to make that t-shirt. That might sell.
Deplatform everyone.
Deplatform everyone.
I want no one to have a voice.
You're a Fitzhughist.
Okay.
All right. So Fitzhugh himself was unsurprisingly not that great with people.
Life at the party.
No. And thus, he did not frequently touch grass, as the internet kids say.
Man, dude. Sometimes you just got to go outside.
Touch grass, bro. Touch grass. So...
fucking podcast equipment needs to be more expensive. Less people need to talk.
I do. I mean, that is deplatform everyone. Price everyone out.
Yeah.
That was my if you really wanted to I mean, no actual gun owner would be for this, but my theory on how to stop gun crime is you make handguns illegal. And then the only people who can afford guns it's a rifle at that point, and rifles are, it's $1,000 for a fucking
I have all the answers
AR.
For that shit.
So,
but the left doesn't want to listen to me.
The
right doesn't want to listen to me either.
Criminals are priced out.
But if you want to get rid of guns in this country, the easiest thing is to just make them as gay as possible.
Oh yeah. You have to gay shame to get rid of guns.
You have a fucking handgun, you pussy.
You have to be homophobic and misogynistic to end guns. Yeah. But the left...
Does someone have an AR-15? Look at that limp wrist bitch.
Yeah, that's how you know the left doesn't actually care about school shootings.
They don't.
Because they won't call someone fucking gay for owning a gun.
Real men shoot compound bows. All right? That's my platform.
There was a bow and arrow mass arrowing in France, I think.
That was kind of dope, though. Just fucking Hawkeye-ing everyone from the building.
I mean, respect. If you're going to commit to that, then you just got to, You just got to give it to him. So, Fitzhugh, to me, as I read more about him, I was like, this dude was literally online 140 years before the internet existed. He might be the first online man in recorded history. Though he did get married. He married Mary Metcalf Brockenborough in 1829. and he had a law practice in Port Royal, Virginia. He did not get out much. He didn't get out much, which, by the way, seems like if you're going to judge society, you might want to walk around in it a little bit.
No. Why would you do that? Why would you have things that would actively counteract your points?
Right.
With evidence.
Data. Why would you go seek different data?
No.
Actually, in his defense, he did do that a little. He did do that.
If anything, seek confirmation.
Yeah. He did read opposing points of view, but the whole problem is he only read. So he spent all his time in this like rickety, rundown mansion that he inherited from his wife's family. The mansion was mostly notable for being riddled with bats. Just bats everywhere in this mansion.
Well, now that we still do have a platform, I would like to just put out my take that no one should read. Like, men, what are you doing?
Oh, I actually had a take. I didn't know how to put it on Twitter, but I'll say it here. Is that you shouldn't read your children books because that's analog screen time.
Yeah, that's true. But also, why are you reading the words of other men?
It's cucked. Yep.
Yeah. Write your own book. Go out and experience things.
And only read your own books.
There's nothing worse. You know, there used to be movie quote guy, but now
it's a GIF and meme guy.
We've
now.
evolved into, I read 3 books and now I'll just quote everything that I read guy. And you try to appear to be more intellectual because you spew out the same regurgitated bullshit from the 3 books you've read your entire life.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're smart? No, dog.
You clapping at Jake right now for reading one Cormac McCarthy novel?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Jake, I know you hear me right now. I know you still listen.
You bitch. Should we come up with a slur for Jake? As an oyster farmer, like a cage puller?
Okay, there was a very clear and obvious slur we could have went with.
What?
Begins with a K.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mean a Jewish thing. I meant an oyster farmer slur. I like cage puller, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, that's what I was going to go with, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But with a K. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Jew. What about
I don't know
Jews?
either. Who knows? Anyway, we're glad that cage puller's gone. So Fitzhugh spent most of his days just in his mansion, in the little library he had, just reading books, newspapers, pamphlets, reading. Never going out. And pamphlets, by the way, newspapers, right? At the time, we did an episode on this a while ago. It's one of my favorite episodes I've ever written. I think it was entitled something like "We Never Wanted Real News."
Yeah,
about how, people today whine about the media being super biased and all this stuff.
Propaganda.
It's always been that way. It started with the penny papers in the 1840s. In fact, there was just a weird period of time from like the 1950s through the 1990s where things were actually kind of neutral and unbiased.
Didn't yellow propaganda start with the explosion of the Maine?
Yellow journalism was around in the Gilded Age, yeah. But
that was kind of like the major catastrophic moment was when they blew up the Maine.
Yeah, so the Maine exploded, and the newspapers immediately ran with Spain blew it up.
Yes,
even though it was definitely an accident.
It was not an accident. It was definitely us.
But it was an accident.
Or was it Cuba?
It was in Cuba.
But it was either us or the Cubans that were on our side that blew it up.
I believe it was an accidental explosion.
Dude, I'm pretty sure we did it.
Oh, I think it was an accidental explosion that the media ran with because they wanted a war to sell papers.
Nothing's an accident.
Well,
Rob.
It also could have been, if you want to go that conspiracy route on the Maine, could have been the U.S., I guess, or more likely it could have been Cuban nationals. There was at the time
more than likely the Cuban nationals to get us on their side.
The big story at the time leading up to the Maine and the Spanish-American War was how badly the Spanish treated the Cubans, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And we had that shit.
False flag.
Gave it up.
Yeah.
We gave up Cuba. What a fucking travesty.
I want to slam my head into a wall every time I think about that. So, again, most of what he was learning about society was from the very, propaganda-y news of the day, pamphlets, which is essentially like a Twitter account or a blog, like that, it's like somebody's Substack, essentially. And, and that pamphlets, news, and whatever books and.
It just sounds like this guy got no bitches.
Well, he had a bitch. He had a wife, but I don't think he ever fucked her.
No bitches.
Like he was just in the library all day. So essentially, this guy
his wife cheated on him all the time.
One would think.
Yeah.
Essentially, this guy was like, imagine a person today who never leaves the house, but like is an information addict who is constantly putting cable news and Twitter into their fucking brain.
They can't open the door and leave their residence, and they have to get everything door dashed.
Like, regardless of political affiliation, imagine that person. Think about how you imagine that person's brain works. You probably know a person not unlike that, not terribly unlike that. That person's brain is fucking broken. That is George Fitzhugh. That's a nightmare person. To his credit, like I said earlier, he did read a lot of opposing views. Again, he thought that everyone should be a slave, pretty much. And so he read a lot of abolitionist pamphlets and newspapers and stuff like that to kind of get the opposing POV. But
got to get ammunition to attack your enemy.
If all you're doing is getting information from the loudest people who just write their strong opinions down, whether those opinions are wrong or right or whatever, that's not a good way. You're not going to get a good view of the world doing that.
No.
No matter what they're writing.
No.
You got to go out and live in the world to understand the world. That's how he learned about the world, more or less. He did practice law and stuff like that, but he was a shut-in by all accounts.
Dude, imagine a generation coming up now.
I remember someone, I won't say names, but we know them. They have a kid who's like 15 or 16, and they were telling me that their kid would often just fall asleep on FaceTime with their friends.
Yep. It's going to be
like at night.
It's going to be worse though, because with the advancement of AI, the advancement of being able to manipulate video and photos, you're not going to know what's real and what's not.
I actually think you're better off just assuming nothing's real.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get to the point where video evidence is going to be dismissed from court.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
There's going to be so much crime.
Oh, yeah. So, after unsuccessfully trying his hand at his own pamphlets, Fitzhugh finally published his first book in 1854. And this book was decently successful. Not hugely successful. The second one was the bigger success, but did well enough. It was entitled Sociology for the South, or The Failure of Free Society, which, by the way, most historians are pretty sure is the first book that ever had sociology in the title. It took on some big names and some big themes. It thought capitalism was bad and Adam Smith was a dipshit.
I disagree. I just disagree that capitalism's bad.
His biggest enemy is capitalism, basically, throughout most of his life. It is also extremely critical of two noted dipshits in Fitzhugh's mind, John Locke and Thomas Jefferson. He fucking thinks Thomas Jefferson is the dumbest asshole. He thinks the Declaration of Independence is full of shit. His theory was global encompassing. He didn't really get into geopolitics.
Okay.
He was just like, we need slavery everywhere.
Keep the wheel churning.
Yeah. He said of the Declaration of Independence, it, quote, deserves the tumid yet appropriate epitaphs which Major Lee somewhere applies to the writings of Mr. Jefferson. It is exuberantly false and aberrantly fallacious. It's full shit. Full shit. Basically, the entire theme of the book is that capitalism and liberty have ruined humanity, and we have to go back to feudalism ASAP. He thinks that feudalism is the perfect human state.
You have a little lord, little liege lord, look over everyone.
We did an episode on that meme that goes around from time to time where it's like a feudal serf only worked like half the year, basically. Like, you work more than a feudal serf. But what that meme doesn't take into account, on purpose probably, is that they only worked for their lord X amount of days a year. So, yeah, they had more days off than you working at whatever fucking cubicle job you have. However, every fucking second that they weren't tilling the fields for their fucking duke or whatever. They had to do all their other work. All of their other work.
Also, if they call their banners, maybe you got to go fight for them.
A war you don't give a fuck about, yeah. I mean, you could get drafted now, I guess, maybe. But so, like, anything like that.
And I will. And I will.
Like, tending to your own livestock, getting your own crops, getting your own, like, fixing shit on your house, everything. Every fucking second of a serf's life was work. So that meme is a lie. We did a whole episode on that, basically. But
repackaged, man.
Fitzhugh.
You know who your lord is? It's Wells Fargo.
Bank of America, man.
It's fucking Lockheed Martin, man. Raytheon.
I trust in them.
Whoever you work for.
Yeah, I trust them to keep me safe.
Back in the day, it was NBC for me. Those dicks.
Part of me is a Fitzhughist in that regard, where it's just like, do I really want to get rid of the military-industrial complex? I feel pretty safe.
Yeah, I do. I would probably get rid of it.
Yeah, fuck off. Communist cuck.
I would probably get rid of conflicts we don't need to be involved in.
See, that's the plantation I live on. That's the Fitzhugh plantation I live on. So he wrote in the book about capitalism. Add to the evidence of these social philosophers who, watching closely the working of the system, have proclaimed to the world its total failure. The condition of the working classes, and we have conclusive proof that liberty and equality have not conduced to enhance the comfort or happiness of the people. Crime and pauperism have increased. Riots, trade unions, strikes for higher wages, discontent breaking out into revolution are things of daily occurrence and show that the poor see and feel quite as clearly as the philosophers that their condition is far worse under the new than under the old order of things. So basically, if society's so great now with all this liberty, then why is everyone yelling so much and things aren't perfect?
Less opinions, less cooks.
I think his argument is and I actually kind of appreciate it for how funny it is his argument was basically like, you could tell people were happier under feudalism because look how much quieter they were.
They didn't have a voice. Yeah.
No one complained under feudalism. Like,
I didn't vote for them.
No one fucking could complain.
No.
But it's funny. It's a funny, like, his logic is never great, but man, he's fucking
He's just firing takes, though.
He is, this man is Take City.
And you're going to want to back your own takes with, illogical fallacies.
Yeah. So I think when I was saying about this episode where I was like, I'm not doing it justice just because he wrote so much. So he wrote these 2 books. His pamphlet career didn't take off, but on his Wikipedia alone, not even in the sources, just in listed other works, hundreds of articles. And these articles are not like an 800-word column in, Newsweek or something like that. These are long pages and pages of opinions that, like, you could probably do a sweet deep dive on it. But, again, this is softcore history, so we're obviously not doing that.
He's doing a thesis on every single topic.
I mean, dude, you could do that. And he had time. Again, 2 online. This guy's a super user on Twitter. Like, he is tweeting all fucking day.
And what else is he going to do?
He doesn't have anything else to do.
He doesn't leave his home.
Practices law, I guess, but, like, fuck.
Does he, though? Because, actually, he'd be a great lawyer.
He commits to the argument.
He might be one of the best lawyers, as long as he does the proper research and work.
Yeah, I mean, he commits to the argument, and he is he is like an obsessive reader. Like, he reads constantly. He also argued that the reason there are revolutions and riots under liberty and capitalism is essentially that most people yearn to be ruled, and they're scared and confused, so they start just lashing out.
Do you buy that?
I think people
like routine.
People do like routine, and they like purpose, which is 2 things he argues for why they should be slaves. But I
don't know if they go hand in hand, though.
No.
Purpose and routine do not.
It depends.
Routine almost feels like you're obligated. That's not purpose, though.
Pursue your purpose with the routine.
Although, I do kind of agree, though, not everyone needs to follow their dreams. Right? That's how we get an environment that nobody can live in.
Oh, we'll get to that.
We just need dudes to pave roads.
Yeah. Or even like actually, so the road
we need
paving.
plumbers. We need people that, you don't grow up wanting to do construction. But who the fuck's going to build the houses?
I feel like the road paving and house building takes care of itself with immigration. I'm more worried about kind of what you said of people not wanting to be plumbers, or I think we were talking about it in the car a while back
Just
when we went to that
blue-collar
shooting
jobs.
range.
Yeah.
Just like there was one you were saying like who runs like power plants, right? How many young people are like, dude, I want to be in charge of a power plant?
Or just anyone that goes to trade school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we really
But I do think there is a pivot to people realizing college isn't necessarily the way to go, especially if you're not going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer.
Yeah.
So I think the next generation coming up might actually go back to a trade.
to see that.
Mhm.
Or they just skip college to be a YouTube star.
Yeah, that's going to be the downfall of society, really. Yeah, we don't need this. Deplatform everyone. This is terrible. But at the end of the day, too, how many people are wasting away at these middle management jobs that don't really matter?
Oh, I thought about this a while ago.
They have an hour work a day. They fuck around for 7 hours listening to us.
I know.
and other
I thought about this a
podcasts.
while ago when I was working at some like stupid marketing job. I like worked with a lot of like smart, talented people, and I was just like, you would be so much more useful like teaching or something, like teaching high schoolers or teaching kids than like making ads for a local air conditioning company.
Yep.
Like, what's the point of that?
But then on the other end of that kind of razor is the people that are like so pro-communist, and they talk about what they're going to do when they're in their commune and they're in their socialist
What are you
society.
gonna do after the revolution?
What are you going to do after the revolution? And they're all like, oh, I'm going to be a poet inside a coffee house. And it's like, no, you're not.
Or like the closest to blue collar they'll get is like, I'm going to be a baker.
It's like, you got to contribute, dog.
Like,
if you want this society,
you're gonna
this thing you want, the revolution,
You're going to be shoveling
you better
coal.
pull your share, dog, because you're very expendable.
Yeah. The fucking no one needs a what is it called in the Middle Ages? The like tribune person who plays a little lute and sings poetry.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name.
It doesn't matter.
It's gonna piss me off.
It
now.
doesn't matter, dude.
Yeah, you don't
Just
need that
continue.
person. But and by the way,
But you
Fitzhugh-
don't need people being middlemen for like hard money.
No, Fitzhugh is all about that belief. He is very anti-individuality. We'll get into that. So he essentially says that every society has what he calls a substratum. Not everyone's meant to be free, and this is better for them.
What if we do limit the options of, like, you still have the ability to choose, but instead of a million options, you have 12.
I mean, realistically, that's what you have anyway.
It becomes like a video game where you have to pick your specialty.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you open Netflix, there's too much to watch. You don't know what to watch.
Dude, you spend 45 minutes
Yeah.
scrolling. Nothing's good.
I do think
Nothing's appealing.
if you want to get people into like trades and shit like that, that you were saying earlier, the best thing to do, like if you want to convince people to be a plumber, whatever, and I don't think it's actually that hard to convince people to be a plumber, but is like,
The good pay, yeah.
or to go into engineering or whatever, is like, just like, you got to tell people like, most of you don't have dreams, but you can still have lots of money. And the best life hack to getting lots of money at this point is like being a plumber or like
Going into a field with not a lot of competition.
HVAC repair guy in fucking Texas.
You become the best at that. You're going to be hired over and over and over again.
You're gonna make a shit
You're
ton
gonna
of money.
rack up that money, start a good family. I think we're going to go back to that.
That's what we need to value again. Is just making a lot of money.
This wasn't our first choice.
No.
But we're making money, dog.
Doing what we can.
We're trying.
So he wrote about the substratum. Fitzhugh did. Every social structure must have its substratum. In a free society, the substratum, the weak, poor, and ignorant, is borne down upon and oppressed with continually increasing weight by all above. So in a free society, in capitalism, you're just constantly fucking weighed down upon. Then he writes, we have solved the problem of relieving this substratum from the pressure from above. The slaves are the substratum, and the master's feelings and interests alike prevent him from bearing down upon and oppressing them. With us, the pressure on society is like that of air or water, so equally diffused as not anywhere to be felt. So basically he's saying, we figured out how to be nice to the substratum so that they don't feel so bad, and partly because it's in our best interests to be nice to them. And he actually was very against rough treatment of slaves. There was a book at the time called Types of Mankind. It was sort of the typical like racial pseudoscience that was popular from then up to through the Gilded Age. You know what I mean? Like in what do you call it? The Quentin Tarantino movie,
Django. Where he pulls out the skull.
Yeah. So that it's like that type of situation. The Types of Mankind was like that type of book. Fitzhugh was not a fan. He wrote of it. We abhor the doctrine of the types of mankind, first, because it is at war with Scripture, which is a whole other can of worms about him and Scripture, and I'm not sure that Jesus was super into slavery. But anyway, he says, which teaches us that the whole human race is descended from a common parentage, that being Scripture. And secondly, because it encourages and incites brutal masters to treat Negroes not as weak, ignorant, and dependent brethren, but as wicked beasts without the pale of humanity. So he's like, they're people, man. Black people are people. They're just helpless people that we need to be nice to. So essentially, again, like you said earlier, people care about people. So it's better to be enslaved to a person than to the markets because the system doesn't care about you, right? The system will be mean to you. People will be nice to you. Which, I don't know about that. He also goes in on cities in the North. Hates cities in the North.
Damn Yankees.
Well, just cities. It's kind of like what you've heard about cities your
He's
entire
cool
life.
with Vermont and New Hampshire.
I guess. I mean, but I'll just read it because he says about this. With them, it's the pressure of the enormous screw never yielding, continually increasing. Free laborers are little better than trespassers on this earth given by God to all mankind. The birds of the air have their nests, the foxes have holes, but they, the laborers, have not where to lay their heads. They are driven to cities to dwell in damp and crowded cellars, and thousands are even forced to lie in the open air. This accounts for the rapid growth of northern cities. The feudal barons were more generous and hospitable and less tyrannical than the petty landholders of modern times. So basically he's saying no one actually wanted to live in Boston, in New York, or Philly. The reason these cities are growing is because they were jamming 22 a room and there were hobos everywhere. So it's just like he's saying that the economic success of these cities is like a lie. Now, don't get me wrong. He is right. Working conditions in factories at this time are a fucking nightmare. Mm-hmm. We're just greasing gears with Irish fucking intestines, but
throw your 4-year-old into the factory.
Yeah. But he is also extremely downplaying.
Those tiny hands can get into the crevices.
They can get the other bones out.
Anything that kind of jams up the line, send in the child. Yep. Send in the toddler. He'll be able to kind of fix that issue. He'll get grind up, but he's so small that the assembly line keeps going.
Boy! Boy! Get over here! Bring me the boy! Yeah. And then that autologous, it's all fun.
I mean, if I was living it back then and I had a big family, my strategy would be I'm going to send in all my, 4 to 10-year-old children around the neighborhood to be chimney sweeps.
Oh, yeah.
And then as one of them or two of them are actually working on the chimney, rob the other people blind.
Have you ever seen the child chimney sweep picture?
I have, yeah.
Where it's like a fucking 3-year-old, like, with his dad. They both wear, like, he dangles the 3-year-old.
But that's going to be a distraction, right? Everyone that's in the home watching the 5-year-old sweep your chimney just covered in, dust and...
I mean, that kid is like black lung by 10. Also, I don't
That's a lot.
My child is almost
one less mouth to feed.
My child is almost 3. My oldest child, he will literally be 3 in less than a month, and I cannot explain to you how badly he would do at cleaning anything. I ask him to wipe his hands, and he doesn't do it.
He's a soft hands.
He is a soft hands. His hands are very soft.
It's the way you're raising your kid. If I was in the picture a little bit more, he'd be a hardened, paycheck.
Better his job. Yeah.
He'd be working right now. I would make him work.
I know you
Is there a reason? I mean, you guys should move to Arkansas, really, if you want to
get
the wheels moving. Child labor.
They have good child labor laws there?
They got rid of it, I think.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That Tyson factory needs
more chicken.
Yeah.
What do you think's in the nuggets, dude?
Kids eating kids.
Cannibals. Dude, apparently in food factories right now, there's a pretty good over 50% chance that every human being in the United States at this point has ingested other humans.
Hell yeah. From what? Like a finger?
The food that is, I guess, crops and everything that are grown with human decomposition.
Oh, you've told me about this before. Yeah, we grow food with human bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Circle of life.
With human bones, yeah. Well, that used to be a big thing back. We've done an episode on that, too, where they went to Waterloo to kind of get all the dead bodies to sell as fertilizer.
Yeah. Well, first they took the teeth for dentures and shit, but yeah, they did use the bones and shit.
And that has
and
continued to go on to this day in, I think, like every state but Idaho. It's something random.
Potatoes don't need it.
Mm-mm. Potatoes don't grow with dead bodies, apparently.
I
I mean, the Irish know.
Yeah,
the Irish know.
So Fitzhugh also wrote, quote, "The slave always has a home, always an interest in the proceeds of the soil." So how do we fix all of society's ills, according to Fitzhugh? More slavery. More slavery.
Double down.
Yeah. There is but one remedy for this evil, he writes. So inherent in free society,
but
and
here's
that
the thing,
is...
right? If everyone's a slave, is anyone a slave?
Well, not everyone's a slave.
But if like 99% of the population is a slave, you're really not a slave. You're just the norm.
It's just another... You're just
a dude.
Yeah. So inherent in free society, and that is to identify the interests of the weak and the strong, the poor and the rich. Domestic slavery does this far better than any other institution. And he was actually kind of critical of feudalism for not being overtly obvious in declaring that serfs are slaves. He's like, they should have had the balls to say it. Just call them slaves, what they are. But either way, he wrote that every great ancient civilization was great because of slavery. Not only were societies like Rome and Greece great, but they were better than modern America or England or France. Their art was better, their philosophy was better, so on and so forth. And he writes, but this high civilization and domestic slavery did not merely coexist. They were cause and effect. So essentially, Fitzhugh concluded, not only should all free black people be immediately enslaved because capitalism and competition between workers put black people at an immediate disadvantage since they weren't as smart as white people, but also, quote, every other form of government than that of slavery has failed in the case of the Negro. He is an enemy to himself and an intolerable pest and nuisance to society. Experience has clearly proved that it is the practicable mode of governing them, slavery. But all working people of every race should be immediately enslaved as well, to help them, to give them purpose, to keep them safe from themselves. His second book comes out in 1857. It's called Cannibals All, or Slaves Without Masters. In that book, he actually agrees with Thomas Jefferson. Every person is born with inalienable rights.
What are his rights?
Okay. Fitzhugh writes, the order and subordination observable in the physical, animal, and human world show that some are formed for higher, others for lower stations, the few to command, the many to obey. We conclude that about 19 out of every 20 individuals have a, quote, natural and inalienable right to be taken care of and protected, to have guardians, trustees, husbands, or masters. In other words, they have a natural and inalienable right to be slaves.
That's not a right.
They have a right to be protected and all that other stuff. And he thinks, in his version of slavery, you work and you have your purpose set forward for you, and everything else is taken care of, sweetie. You're going to have your food, your house. You can get married and have kids and stuff because we'll need more slaves. But everything will be taken care of for you. You have a right to not have to worry.
Well, that's the dystopian future that's always portrayed in movies.
Yeah.
So he's ahead of his time, so I guess every science fiction writer kind of ripped this dude.
Owes a debt to Fitzhugh, yeah.
Yeah. Because, oh no, don't worry about this. Just go to your job. Pedal the bike.
I mean, again, I have to ask you, would this guy's Twitter not have crushed?
No, dude. I don't think so.
I think it would have. I think a lot of people, because again, you go back to this, is that nobody thinks they're going to be the slave.
Yeah,
right?
I guess it's horseshoe theory too. So like the radical left and the radical right would be kind of about this dude.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the
break
radical
off.
left and what he thought of them and how he kind of agreed with them.
Because isn't that the whole thing with immigration now? That the left is like, oh, well, they're taking the jobs that nobody wants. You want to go pick the tomatoes? It's like, all right, so you're essentially calling the fucking Mexicans slaves.
Yeah, I thought it was offensive to call them fruit pickers or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, you want
Oh,
tomatoes to be $12?
I do like that, like, yeah, far left people are like, well, I mean, they are that. It's just mean to call them that. I love it so much.
Yes, it's imported labor. It's cheap labor. That is the reason immigration is happening. It has nothing to do with human rights. It has everything to do with the economy.
Always. It's always money, baby. This country's a business.
And we ain't producing enough kids.
Well, speak for yourself.
I know. It's my fault.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
He also mentions, Fitzhugh also elaborates on the rights of the rulers, of the 1 out of every 20 who are fit to rule. The 1 in 20 are as clearly born or educated or some way fitted for command and liberty. Not to make them rulers or masters is as great a violation of natural right as not to make slaves of the masses. A very little individuality is useful and necessary to society for the rulers. Much of it begets discord, chaos, and anarchy. So he is more or less saying there's way too much individuality in society.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Can't say I feel like we overshot the runway on individuality.
We did.
Everyone has worth, but like, yeah, not everyone's gonna hit the home run in Game 7 of the World Series. You know what I mean?
Dude,
Like,
we need ditch diggers. We need people that, just take the shit that is fed to them.
actually, I'll give you a good example of this that I think actually
Not for their whole life, but like
Yeah.
Parts of their day.
There was, I think, the best example of a moment of collectivism producing maybe the greatest series of individual accomplishments in American, maybe human history, is World War II, right? Everyone joined the army, or the military, I should say, and it made more heroes out of a generation than has ever happened before or since. But it was collectivism that started that, right? It was not individuality, even though there's things to be said about American individualism making the American soldier kind of like a force to be reckoned with. There was still like a act of collectivism in that, and the sort of like shared sense of purpose of not being overly. I mean, you're going to read about that constantly with the Olympic team just winning the gold, right? Everyone had to like dial down their individuality.
Or even for World War II, right? What's more powerful, 3 or 1?
Yeah.
One common cause.
Yeah.
To beat Germany, Italy, and the Japs.
Oh, you going to drop that? Drop
Japanese.
the J word?
Japanese.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I think that's an interesting argument. I do think we've overshot the runway with individuality. I think people need to actually it's not like you don't need to be an individual, but I would say that like people are too concerned with individuality. You know what I mean? Just exist. Just exist.
A lot of people do just exist, though.
I think most
That's the
people,
saddest part.
I think most people do just exist.
And they try to find some meaning or purpose, individuality that is always escaping them. And I think it leaves them more depressed because they feel like they have to have it. Everyone else is looking for it.
They have to have like a thing.
Yeah. Something has to make me unique. Something has to make me special. But at the end of the day, much like myself, nothing does, man. And you have to accept it. And it's fine. It's cool over here, man. Get in the water. It's nice in here. We'll paddle out. We'll catch a couple waves here and there. but we're not destined for greatness. It's okay. We're going to be long forgotten in history. No one's ever going to listen to this show.
I mean, even the people you think are going to be remembered are immediately forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
that's what this show is about, really.
Like, first off,
the forgotten people throughout history.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, you look at, like, a president, right? And you're like, oh, that's a president. That's a great person. Name all the presidents. You fucking can't.
Name one thing McKinley did besides die.
Yeah. Like, or even, like, you see, like, a TV show, right? You see an actor on a TV show, and you're like, that's a great person. That person did something memorable.
Kids now,
I can turn on a TV show from the 80s.
Show them Humphrey Bogart, and they'll have no idea who he is.
No fucking clue. Yeah.
So Doug, I don't even really know who Humphrey Bogart is. And I went to film school, and I saw a lot of his films, and he was really the same actor and everything.
For every Napoleon or I mean, honestly, this is what's even crazier. Go ask Americans, who was the commanding general in World War II?
Eisenhower, of course.
Yeah.
But
the most important war in human history that America was the spearhead for.
I think they might get lucky, though, because he was president.
Dude, I don't even know how many people fucking just know who he is. Dwight Eisenhower is one of the...
Ike.
Yeah, like, it's... it does... The immortality is impossible in both name and... Like, yeah, great, there's a Caesar, there's a Napoleon, there's an Alexander the Great. For every one of that, there's people who did even similar stuff.
Dude, it's grim, but I don't think 30% of the population would know who Alexander the Great is.
Minimum.
Or even Caesar.
See, I'm more
would know because
more
of
bullish on Caesar, but yeah,
the dressing. But
yeah. So Fitzhugh ultimately, he just really cares about the little guy. When you think about it, he says it's the duty of society to protect the weak, but protection cannot be efficient without the power of control. Therefore, it is the duty of society to enslave the weak.
Yeah, okay, dude.
Just looking out for the little guy.
Yeah, it's in your best interest. It's okay.
Yeah.
We don't want you to hurt yourself. Mommy and Daddy's got it.
Yeah, Daddy's got it. Mommy's got it.
Let us guide you.
Believe it or not, there were some logical holes in his arguments.
Really?
As proof that serfs are happier than free workers, he wrote...
I don't think so, though, because you're dying as you're trying to tell us right now.
Yeah.
So I think this is him from the grave.
Hand out.
Poking holes into your fucking throat.
He writes, during the decline of the Roman Empire, slavery became colonial or predial, which means tied to the land. The slaves occupied the place of tenants or serfs, were adscripti soli, and could only be sold with the farm. The serfs of Russia, Poland, Turkey, and Hungary are happier and better provided for than the free laborers of Western Europe. They are not overworked. They are not overworked and underfed, as are the free laborers of Western Europe. Hence, they never rise in riots or insurrections, burn houses, commit strikes, nor do they emigrate. So, here's my problem with that argument. Nor do they emigrate. So they're slaves, forced to live on the land, basically by force, and your proof that they like it is they can't escape.
They haven't left jail.
They must love being in prison.
It's crazy. Like, they just can't get over these walls and the barbed wire.
Not sure
I love it here.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
I love private prison.
I will say he makes a better point on this. I don't, on this, what I'm about to read, I don't agree with it, but it's not the worst argument in my mind. So Fitzhugh had some thoughts on the American Revolution as well. He wrote, we do not agree with the authors of the Declaration of Independence that governments, quote, derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. The women, the children, the Negroes, and but few of the non-property holders, a few of the non-property holders were consulted or consented to the revolution or the governments that ensued from its success. So he's saying, like, consent of the governed, you didn't ask hardly anyone. There were like thousands of people that made the rules for millions.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about this. At its peak, like 40% of the U.S. population actually supported the revolution.
Yeah, and he goes on to write, the very term government implies that it is carried on against the consent of the governed, which I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do agree with, like, obviously not everyone being governed consents to what they're being governed by. Often quite a few people don't.
Listen, I bet he's a no tax on tips guy.
I think he's taxation is theft, maybe. I don't know.
But you can't really tax somebody that's not getting paid, right?
Yeah. So basically, in his mind, I guess the only real freedom is anarchy or you're full of shit.
Even if it is anarchy, there has to be an established kind of set of expectations with it.
Well, there's always going to be a social structure no matter what happens, right? Like you would just socially make rules about, like, don't fuck my dog, you know, like, hey,
where everything's just free game.
Yeah, I guess in a true anarchist society, you can fuck anyone's dog.
Just a dog chasing cars.
Though he hated capitalism, Fitzhugh was not a socialist. He had a lot to say about them, actually. My favorite, though, is that he kind of is annoyed at socialists because he's like, I get what you're saying, but, like, you're too much of a activist about it. Like, what you're suggesting, true socialism, it's just what I'm suggesting it's slavery with extra steps. So let's just do my thing.
Just listen to me, dude.
Yeah.
I got it.
He writes,
you're being too vocal, and it's a whole ordeal.
Yeah, like, you're kind of, like, cucked about it. Like, you're kind of like a bitch about it. Like, just you want slaves, I want slaves.
Let me lead you to the water.
Yeah, but my slavery, I'm honest about it. He writes, socialism proposes to do away with free competition to afford protection and support at all times to the laboring class. And by the way, he is against free competition. He thinks it demeans the workers, all that stuff, rat race to the bottom type of situation. To bring about at least a qualified community or property and to associate labor. All these purposes, slavery fully and perfectly attains. So he's saying, like, dude, if you want socialism where there's, like, a few people in charge making decisions but everyone gets equal shit, do my thing, which is slavery. Slavery does it. Again, socialism, slavery with extra
He's just
steps.
obsessed with this shit. I'm over it at this point. Like, let's get on. Let's move on to this guy's final thesis. So give me crazier shit, like, because you're kind of beating the same drum.
This is my favorite thing about Fitzhugh. His views on slavery, published in these books and a ton of newspaper articles, they made one person in particular incessant, incredibly angry.
Who was it? Who was this one individual that was so aghast by these takes?
Aghast is a good way to put it. Furious at them. Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, he was needling Abe. Old Honest Abe.
Fitzhugh's...
How did he even get Abe's attention?
Fitzhugh's first book, Sociology of the South, allegedly reinvigorated Lincoln's passion for politics after he lost. Lincoln was a congressman in the Whig Party,
and he lost.
He lost after one term, and the Whig Party shortly thereafter dissolved. Okay?
And he was like, "I'm done with politics."
He was like, "I don't know where to go." He wasn't done with politics, but he was like, he was really disheartened.
He was searching.
He was kind of done with it, and
he was trying to find his purpose.
Between losing his congressional seat after one term, his political party literally disintegrating, ceasing to exist, and his son Edward dying at the age of 3 of tuberculosis, Lincoln was lost at sea. Like, he was adrift, right? He was sad that he had no impact on society that he felt he could have a great impact on. He had no idea what to do. He was uninspired and didn't know where to turn.
And he read the words of this man.
He read the Sociology of the South.
And that was the catalyst, essentially, for, one of the greatest presidents of our country.
One of the greatest leaders of any country in human history, as far as I'm concerned. This book literally reinvigorated Lincoln because he read it and hated it so fucking much. This man...
He's like, I need to become president.
This man brought Lincoln back from the dead.
I need to stop slavery.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, oh, okay. I was pretty whatever on slavery, but this book made me want to free the slaves.
Lincoln's law partner, William Henry Herndon, said that it, quote, aroused the ire of Lincoln more than most pro-slavery books. Inspired by his reading of Fitzhugh, Lincoln wrote, although volume upon volume is written to prove slavery is a very good thing, we never hear of the man who wishes to take the good of it by being a slave himself. This guy was so fucking crazy. George Fitzhugh was so fucking crazy.
He's about that life. He was willing to be a slave.
That he brought Lincoln back.
But he himself said he would be a slave.
That's how Lincoln took it. That Lincoln was like, this guy would be a slave himself if it got him what he wanted.
Well, we never think we're going to be the slave. We're always the exception.
Right. No one ever yeah.
But
when
society
collapses,
brought Lincoln back from the political grave.
Yeah.
Revived him.
Yeah, it's the same way like everyone thinks, well, when society collapses, like I own a gun, so I'll be a warlord.
Will you?
Will you? Will you? Yeah, maybe a lieutenant to a war. Will you? Eventually, of course, the Civil War happens, slavery is abolished, and finally, Fitzhugh sees the light.
Oh, does he?
That capitalism is good. Because it also enslaves people, actually.
And he became a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah. Specifically, private land ownership in which rich people box out poor people and have more control over the government and thus those poor people. So he's really into land monopoly. Like he likes that like a small few who have a lot of money own most of the land.
So he's into BlackRock.
Yeah. Oh, he would love BlackRock. Okay. He would be all about BlackRock.
Or like a Gray Star.
Yeah. He likes that most people can't own property just out of financial means alone.
Yeah, it just the natural order of things worked it out for what he was arguing all along.
Yeah, the markets did what he needed.
The markets were his friend all along the way.
He never knew. Yeah, he never knew. But he wrote in 1866, 7, something like that, desiring the luxuries of life. They say to the about the landowners about why they're so just and great. He go, and good to them. He goes, but desiring the luxuries of life. They say to the landless, we'll permit you to live on our lands and cultivate them, provided you furnish us not only with the necessities, food, whatever, but also with whatever beautiful or ornamental architecture in dress furniture or whatever else that we need, with all the luxuries on the table. Essentially, he's saying that we're back to Roman times, right? He's like, oh, the slaves help us create beautiful things because they free up our time to make beautiful shit. This guy just fucking loves slavery. So I think he kind of talks himself into he got what he wanted.
The slaves are our role players.
Yeah. The glue guys. So
they let me cook. They let me just kind of like get open shots. They're setting the picks.
Mm-hmm. And he kind of just talks himself into that everything's fine. And I got what I wanted. He kind of just talks himself into he was right all along. Again.
As one does. Never admit defeat. Always reshape your argument if it ever incurs some type of speed bump.
Every word I read about this man, I was like, shit, this is just he's a shit don't change guy through and through.
Yeah, but I think earlier in the episode you said I would be much like him, which go fuck yourself.
No, I said you would appreciate his spicy takes.
I don't. I really don't.
Fair enough.
I'm willing to change, okay? I'm never on a block. That's my whole thing. I stand for nothing.
I know you're not immovable, but I just think, I thought you might appreciate spice sticks. Anyway, after the Civil War, Fitzhugh actually put his money where his mouth is a little bit. He spent time judging for the Freedmen's Court, which was essentially a court that like helped black people who were slaves like get a life. You know what I mean?
Get a life, dude.
I think he did that because he was like, dude, what are they going to do when they're free? They don't know how to be free. Not that he's not kind of a piece of shit, but it was interesting that he actually like kind of put up a little bit. His wife died in 1877 and he moved to Kentucky. He later moved to Huntsville, Texas, where his daughter lived. He died in 1881 and he's buried in Huntsville, Texas to this day.
We should go visit his grave.
Maybe. What'd you learn today?
Piss all over it.
Yeah. What'd you learn today?
We're always slaves.
Everything is slavery.
Everything is slavery.
If you want it to be, I guess, which is what most people are like now, right? Like people are like, well, slavery. I mean, it's just, I'm telling you, this guy is just like, I feel like I'm reading somebody's fucking Twitter account. Who's today's Hitler?
Probably this guy.
George, it's George.
It's probably this guy.
Piece of shit for sure. Probably not a great husband.
Yeah, I bet she cheated on him. She died of syphilis.
One would hope.
Because she was just out there getting dick.
Yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, that is all I've got for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please leave a review on Apple and Spotify, by the way. 5 stars. You got to write something on Apple that helps us move up the charts.
Please and thank you.
Yeah, we would love that. And obviously, patreon.com/Softcore History.
Also, YouTube. Softcore History on YouTube. Subscribe. Watch.
Subscribe to the YouTube.
See our pretty faces. We got a wide today, so boom. Look at those legs.
And
look at those legs.
Good Lord. Thick
thighs.
Those thick things. And by the way,
gotta get the fucking foot guy back.
If you're a listener, like you listen to us at work, okay, check this out. Pull up YouTube on the TV, leave it on for your dog, leave one of our playlists on for your dog, and then just listen. But then you can still listen to us at work if you're audio person. YouTube for the dog, audio for you.
Just both.
Yeah.
Really, just listen to our episodes over and over again.
Over and over.
Let us be your takes.
That's all I got for today.
Yeah. You just got soft served.